KHTS Radio.
Your hometown station.
Hello to all the lovers out there. Welcome to Thriving Relationships with Jessica Hartley. We are here live at the KHTS studio in beautiful downtown Santa Clarita every Wednesday at 2 p.m. on AM 1220 and 98.1 FM. You can join us on Facebook Live from anywhere in the world or download the KHTS app on your phone. I am your host, Jessica Hartley, relationship coach and founder of the Legendary Love program. And if you're like me, getting by, just trying to make it work is not enough. You want nothing less than a thriving relationship to show up for, one that feels fun, passionate, connected, respected, and solid. And you'll do what it takes to get it right so you can enjoy the fullness of your life and grow old still holding the hand of your best friend. But the truth is that our marriage license does not come with any training for success. Divorce rates are still at 50%, and it breaks my heart to watch two people that were once so deeply in love struggle, go through all that pain, and end up breaking up the family that they created together. But I'm here to tell you that relationship is only hard when you do not have a successful model to learn from. You don't have to settle for unhappiness. You don't have to throw in the towel or break up your family. And you don't have to wait for your partner to meet you halfway. There is a way to create a relationship that thrives. As a visionary and a romantic, I've dedicated my life to identifying the most direct path to go from even the brink of divorce into a solid, thriving love life. I've been where you are, and I know how to turn it all around. So right now, my biggest intention is to share in all honesty who I am, to be your resource, to share the profound lessons, to give you clear direction, tools, feedback, exactly what you need to uplift your relationship today. The Legendary Love program is revolutionizing how we heal our relationships and set them up to last. It's a step-by-step course providing the most direct path to deep connection and establishing strong, lasting love. You can check it out for yourself at jessicahartley.com. From there, you can book a consultation or an assessment with me, or just send me an email, and you always have the opportunity to reach out to me directly. You can call or send a text to 661-347-8473 because I'm here to help. And today on our show, we are going to discuss how the greatest challenges in our life and in our relationship can either destroy us or make our relationship stronger. And here with me today is the wonderful mother, wife, Brittany Ellis, and she's also a poet. She is an amazing, very, very dear friend of mine, and I hold her in very high esteem. So welcome, Brittany, so much to my show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is just kind of dive right in and just discuss what some of the challenges that you've faced, some of the challenges that I've faced, some of the challenges that my clients have faced, things that people have dealt with in their relationship. And it's not just a relationship challenge, even though most of the time there's specific things that come up in our relationships that create a challenge. And there's also the challenges that life brings forward for us. Yeah. And then we have to sort of face that and work with that and use that challenge to grow our relationship. Because it's one of the things that we know is that life itself is always about change, and sometimes that change can be challenging, or sometimes it can throw a little wrench in the journey that we have going on. It's almost like sometimes when we feel like we've got it going on and things are going great, then all of a sudden, here's a wrench, and now what are you going to do? Exactly. For myself, this is something that I like to talk about a lot because my personality is very much of a problem solver. I'm very determined. I actually like the challenge because it helps me to grow. It helps me to get stronger. But at the same time, of course, I do want the same consistency going on too, and I think that that's something that's so interesting about people is that we both want variety and change and consistency at the same time. So the question then is, how do we balance the two of those things, and where do we find our variety? Where do we find the change or the growth, because that's really what it is behind the change. It's really growth that we're talking about here. It's not just, oh, I have to change this and throw it all out. It's like, no, I can hold this and then grow with it and make it even better than it was before, and so finding where that is. What is your experience with change and with growth?
So when I became a mother, I went from, just dating my husband, having fun, to all of a sudden we have a baby at home, and we can't just go out whenever we want, and we can't just, nurture our relationship the whole time because we have this dependent baby that needs the both of us.
Right.
So it was hard to find the time for date night, to find the time for both of us. But I'm so glad we did, because we've always made that, a key part of our relationship is dating each other. We'd never wanted to let that spark dwindle. And there would be, some weeks it wouldn't happen, but we always tried and made an effort to go on a date. And so that's really become part of our relationship, is continuing the dating. He still calls me his girlfriend half the time, and I like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's so important. I love that you bring that up, because parenthood, for the man and for the woman, is a big change that comes in and can change things. And it has, for a lot of people, destroyed the relationship. It's made where you don't realize it at first, because at first you have this new life coming in, and it's exciting and that's new, but then it gets hard, because you don't get the sleep that you had. You don't have the time to connect like you used to have. And you have a whole nother person that's depending on you for protection, for safety, for their emotional well-being, for the nurturing. And as children, we come in so dependent on our parents, for so many things. So our child is now so dependent on us. And so it just almost zaps away our freedoms that we had.
And there's no breaks.
And it's like we didn't realize, I know, at least for me, I didn't realize like how drastic that would be, because like you said, it was like, I love being a mom. I really thrive. I really look forward to that. But there are times that I am overwhelmed and exhausted by it too, and I just need my breaks. And then there's not just only like the self-care that goes in there, but also the relationship care, and not only do I need my own personal time, my own breaks, but also our relationship needs its own personal time and its own separation from that, so it's really important. And I think that a lot of relationships, don't make that time. And so slowly over time, because they're not giving themselves the self-care, that time, and also nor the relationship, that change creates a separation and disconnection from self, and also disconnection from relationship. And that's really a big thing that can change things. But also we have other things that come into our lives as well. So Brittany, you have a big sort of traumatic experience that was a challenge for you in your life. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So I have 2 kids. I have a 5-year-old and then a now 3-year-old. But back in February of 2017, my daughter at the time was 15 months old, and she was diagnosed with brain cancer. It was called choroid plexus carcinoma. And we went from just a pediatrician wellness checkup to going to Children's Hospital Los Angeles and dealing with brain cancer. And I mean, nothing in life can prepare you to hear the words, your child has cancer and she may die. I mean, there's nothing that can prepare you for that. So like I said, we went from I was playing at the park with my kid to spending the night in the emergency room. And I remember calling my husband saying, we need to go down to the hospital. She has a brain tumor. They think it's cancerous. And, so he rushed from work straight to the hospital. We were living in the hospital. We lived there for 9 months. My daughter did 2 brain surgeries, 6 rounds of chemo, 3 rounds of stem cell transplants. And we should have Airbnb'd our house because we didn't live at our house for about 9 months while she was going through treatment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can only imagine, and I think, as your friend being in that position, that's all I could do, is just like put myself in your shoes. And I was like, I was hurting for you and for all of that. But, that's such a shock to go from that and then to not know. And I think also, what touched me is, it's I think as an onlooker, you don't really understand all the dynamics that go into that. And so sometimes you would share some of the stories that you were, experiencing some of the things that was going on, like I remember one story that you, I think you posted something about just how like where, you're getting to know some of the other parents that are also struggling. You're now like at the children's hospital all the time. And then, like down the hall, someone passes away, and things like that. And that really like shook me just to even be in that kind of environment. And especially with it being, kids and our kids. And, I mean, I can't imagine that, but it's a challenge, it's something that just like totally shakes your world. And now we're left with, what impact does this have, not only for ourselves, but also for, our relationship and our world. Another thing that I think, people have struggled with recently is like these fires, so these fires are coming in and just destroying homes. And now, you have, I know of a couple in particular who was specifically, struggling, and then the fire, threatened their home, and then they came together, because now there's like, we have to like refocus our attention on what is most important and what is, where are my biggest intentions, my biggest values, my biggest concerns for not only myself, but also for my family. And, sometimes that trauma that brings people together. And then also sometimes that trauma that can break people apart, I think in situations where there's tragedy, it often can bring people together. But at the same time, it can bring people apart. Like, just to relate in the tiniest way to your story, we had an experience early on where my son, he almost drowned. And that was like such a shocker for me because I, like all of a sudden my life sort of just started like flashed before my eyes.
Right. And
I could foresee that because I was on duty watching the kids that day. My husband was at work, that could have destroyed our relationship, just because like, what if he like blamed me, like what if, he couldn't get past that, and I couldn't get past that. What if I blamed myself so much that I couldn't get past that? And, what would that have done to our relationship and to just the health and our ability to still love each other so unconditionally in the way that we had been? It just really throws in a wrench, for lack of a better word. I could only see that. So what were some of the biggest challenges about your daughter with having the brain cancer?
Yeah, so just, the day-to-day, I mean, Cardin still had to go to work. So he was working and I was at the hospital, and just, I would get thrown up on, or just the emotional toll it took on me, just seeing, different families. When we were there for the 9 months, there was 3 kids that passed away. And they're passing away in rooms that you pass on a daily basis in the hallway. you know, it's just the emotional toll it took on me. I remember just calling him and just being like, I am at the end of my rope here. Like, I cannot do another day of this, and I still have rounds of chemo to do. And I remember him telling me, you know, if you reach the end of your rope, tie a knot with the frayed ends and hold on, you know. And that's something that we always told each other, because there would be times where I was really drowning in sorrow, and then he would pick me up. And then there was times where he was drowning in sorrow, and I had to be the strong one to pick him up. And so that was a challenge, you know, just always, you know, helping each other out. Also, you know, finding time for ourselves, finding time to love each other, because sometimes you feel guilty because your daughter is there laying in bed and you're like, how can I be happy? Like, how can I go on a date, or how can I, you know, hug him or kiss him, you know, when there's so much pain going on. So that was hard for me personally to figure out the balance of trying to figure out my relationship with him and trying to figure out my relationship with my daughter. There I'm the caregiver, but then here I have to, you know, still love, you know, even though it's both love, it's different kinds of love.
And you also have your son as well. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's like just natural feelings of like, oh my, I'm neglecting him while I'm like spending all my time and attention with my daughter. Yeah,
my son lived with my mom for the good part of those 9 months because it was flu season, so he wasn't allowed to come up to the room. So I would have to go down, you know, for an hour while someone was watching Elizabeth, and it was, very difficult. Family dynamic was very difficult.
So, you know, all of those things are like, you know, coming to this place of like, okay, what is the most important place? And what is like, where are my values, and how do I balance all of these things at the you know, in our lives right now? And I know as a mom, for me especially, I mean, I can only imagine that, you know, sometimes those times where your daughter was going through the chemo or having the after effects of the chemo, you know,
which was even worse than the
share
chemo.
some of those like stories. Can you share that with me?
Sure. Yeah. The very first round was by far the worst round, because we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know how her body was going to handle the chemo. Different people have different reactions. And my daughter had pretty much every bad reaction that you can think of. She had reactions that were unprecedented. She went into a full body rash where she literally tried tearing her skin off, and she still has scars from just digging in. And people will tell me all the time, you know, we'll cut her fingernails, and they just don't get it. It's like, no, she's using her skin to tear her skin off. Like she was so incredibly itchy. So that was by far the worst. There was time where she stopped breathing and had to go on oxygen, and just horrific. I mean, near-death experiences almost all the time during that first round.
Right. Yeah. And so were the other rounds easier?
The other rounds, yes, because we figured out, you know, she needs Benadryl before you give this chemo. So we were able to pinpoint how to best help her with the chemo. She still had to do the chemo, but we were able to figure out how to best handle it. And we knew, okay, she has this reaction this time, so we're going to have this medicine on standby in case she needs it. And she also didn't have that skin rash again. So that was just during that first round. I don't know if it was like a shock to the system, and then her body got used to it. But yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, that's so intense. Like, even as like you're explaining it right now, like just reliving and putting myself in those shoes is crazy, you know, like just to relate to what you must have been going on. I mean, she's screaming there, like, and there's nothing you could do to help her.
No,
you
she's
know, like
15
you just
months
have to
old.
let her like sort of like, I mean, I know that even just, this does not relate at all, but even just remembering what it was like when like my babies had colic, you know, and they're just screaming for no reason. And it's like, I can't do anything to help them except hold them right now, you know, and I'm sure you couldn't even hold her.
Yeah, there were some days I couldn't hold her. And, you know, after surgery, and she had all of these tubes around her and IVs, and you just had to watch her through a crib and, you know, just hold her finger. And
that's so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also just is a testament to the strength that you have inside of you. And I think also the strength that Cardin has inside of him, and how both of you use that to build each other stronger.
Yes.
So we're going to have to go ahead and take a quick break. But when we get back, we'll talk about what it was like inside of your relationship and how you use this struggle to make your relationship stronger. And what are those key things, so that when we have challenge, we know exactly what to focus on to make ourselves grow individually and together. We'll see you at the end of the break.
Little I Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little I Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleileaders.org.
KHTS strives to give the Santa Clarita Valley all the information they need. And when our computers aren't working the way they should, we call Resurgence, your true source for IT. Resurgence provides outstanding customer service while also providing the highest technical ability. They strive to do what is best to improve and protect your business. For more information on Resurgence, call 349-4114 or go to resurgenceit.com.
Are you ready for some football? Consumers Furniture is. Stop by Consumers Furniture today and check out their huge selection of Power Motion furniture. They have the largest selection of reclining sectionals, sofas, love seats, and recliners in the Santa Clarita Valley. Fabric or leather, Consumers has the right piece at the right price to make your home ready for all the big games. Need it for this Saturday or Sunday? No problem. Consumers has same day or next day delivery on most items. Consumers Furniture, located in the Center Point Shopping Center, right below Sam's Club and Walmart.
98.1 FM and AM 1220.
Welcome back to Thriving Relationships with Jessica Hartley. I'm your host, Jessica Hartley, and I have Brittany Ellis here with me, and we've just been chatting and talking about how relationship challenges, and even challenges in life in general, can either destroy the relationship or make it even stronger. And Brittany was so willing to share with us how she recently had such a big challenge through her daughter, and experiencing her daughter going through brain cancer, and just having to be there for her daughter, and how that has had such an impact in her life and also in her relationships. So Brittany, what we want to now really look at is what exactly is it about, what is it in your relationship, let's start there, that helped you guys to use this challenge to grow your relationship even stronger?
Yeah. So I dated quite a bit before Cardin, and Cardin dated quite a bit before me, probably even more. But one thing that I loved about Cardin, and still do, is how easy it was to talk to him. And I had other relationships where that wasn't the case, or we would only text and we wouldn't call each other on the phone, and, just very, amateur. And so when the brain cancer happened with our daughter, I remember that just augmented my feelings for him and how easy it was to talk to him. I was able to easily communicate my feelings to him. And one of his strengths is making life fun and positive and happy. And I can be kind of a stress case. And so he was able, in the hospital, he made these videos. He invented this adapter so we could roll around Elizabeth in her wagon and it would connect to the IV pole.
That, yes.
So I didn't have to do this awkward going around corners with, a wagon and an IV pole. So that was a strength, and that helped me out so much because I was the main caregiver in the hospital, that he would take time, to invent something to make my life easier. Was so selfless when he was going through all of his emotional turmoil too. He was struggling just as much as me, but he still took time to care for me in that particular instance. and then for me too, he is very much a physical touch guy. And so, I knew, we have to get out from this hospital. We have to literally remove ourselves from the hospital, if only for an hour, just to work on that, just hold hands, to hug, to kiss, to have that physical connection, to remove ourselves from a space where there's so much emotional turmoil. So we would, sometimes we would just walk down Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. Sometimes we would go to Arby's and then eat Arby's in the parking lot in the car, just something to get away and to, improve our relationship. Even if it was the tiniest step, it really, I looked forward to it every week. I knew, okay, I can get through today because at the end of the day, I'm going to go on a date, and I can get through this, I can deal with throw up. I can deal with that. I can deal with this because I'm going to go on a date and I'm going to have that little break. So,
yeah. So you're saying, just to recap, it was that you guys had time set aside to make sure that you're still nurturing the relationship.
Yeah.
Despite the trauma and the chaos and everything else that was going on, that you allowed yourself that time and space.
Yeah. And it wasn't easy. Sometimes it was a really big effort. I remember the first date we went on, we found this restaurant and we're like, okay, we can just go and sit and share a meal. And I remember we just both sat there and I don't even know if we talked, but we were outside of the hospital and we were just there. And I remember we were holding hands on the table. And we must have looked like the saddest couple on earth. We probably were at the time. And the waiter came and he said, I can see you guys are having some issues. Like, dessert is on me. And I remember just like, that just even made me bawl. And I was just like, oh my gosh. But, it wasn't always easy to go on a date, but we made it an effort to do that. Because we knew that it would improve our relationship by having this time to ourselves.
Yeah. And also it sounds like you didn't need the date to be perfect. Like you were willing to just go to Arby's and sit in the car and just create the time that you needed together, to just reconnect and to like be each other's support and also, to just to nurture that relationship.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And then what were the other things?
The other thing was how easy it was to talk to him.
Yeah.
I remember, like with the rope thing, I would call him just sobbing, I cannot do this anymore. And I remember reading this quote from a fellow cancer mom, and she said, I told myself I can get through the next 5 minutes. You can do anything for 5 minutes. And she said, I got through months of my daughter's cancer treatment 5 minutes at a time.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, reading that in the beginning of her journey and just thinking, okay, that's going to be me. Like, I'm going to be 5 minutes at a time. And so sometimes, I would give myself 5 minutes. I got through 5 minutes and I would call Cardin and I'd be like, okay, like, this is what's happened in 5 minutes. And he was like, okay, call me back in 10 minutes, and we got it a little longer at a time, but he gave me that time to know that I could do it by myself, dealing with cancer with a baby, and still, being there for me.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So you guys had a really good system of communication.
Yes.
Like really easy to talk to each other, to talk about the scary things, to talk about the fears, to talk about the, what you're feeling. And to one of the good things, or one of the essential things about a good communication is the ability to just say whatever is exactly on your mind and not necessarily be judged by the other person.
Yes.
And or sometimes have what you say get taken personally, because it's part of, what you're touching into there with that communication is just our ability to have a friendship at the root of the relationship. A friendship that says like, hey, you can be you and I can be me, and we both can be each other's support. We can help each other. When you're weak, I'll help you. When I'm weak, you'll help me, and have that kind of support system. So that's really big.
Yes.
And just to be able to, and that's what good communication is really grounded or founded upon, is being able to have that at the core. Because sometimes, our partner will say something that hurts us, but it's being able to see beyond what they're saying into who they really are, and then to talk and work and discuss things from that point. So you're able to have that open communication. And then you talked about the fun that Cardin brought into the relationship, or into the situation. So sort of like making it light, bringing light to a heavy kind of topic, a heavy thing to face, a heavy challenge, because change and challenge is often hard. It's not something that's a walk in the park. There's, often the analogy that I use is that it's a mountain, and you've got to climb that mountain. And no matter how tired you are, no matter how stressful it is, how much anxiety or how much pain or how much whatever, you've got to put one foot in front of the other and keep climbing that mountain. So there's this ascent. But when you get to the top of the mountain, now you have the view. Now you have the perspective. Now you have the downslope to go down, and then it's easy, So to bring the lightness to that journey, so it's as if you and Cardin were climbing that mountain together, and he was cracking jokes along the way, like even though it was a climb, even though it was a challenge, even though it was traumatic and hard, he was making the best of it, and bringing light to it so that it would not feel so heavy and hard, and that you can move forward with it. And not only for you, I'm sure, but, he brought that to everyone that was following you guys and your story, because we all watched those videos and they were all so funny. And he does have something about him that does bring that sense of, well, he's a very creative person, let's put it that way.
Yes. And he's always been a very giving person, too. And I think when you're going through hardships, it can augment that. If you're a jerk before, when you're really stressed out, you're going to be even more of a jerk. And if you're a giving person and you're stressed out, I think you're going to be even more giving. And I remember he would bring Jamba Juice for all the nurses, on a Friday night, because they work, tireless hours, and they're around it all the time with multiple patients, and so I'm sure they need, some relief too. So, we'd bring in Jamba Juice or pizza or whatever.
And, which is really interesting, because I think for most, when you're in a challenge, or when you're in a traumatic time, or this change of the growth of your life, let's call it, sometimes it's really hard to see beyond what you're experiencing, and to like put yourself in other people's shoes and say like, oh, this is hard for them too. Let me help them, or let me give something to them, So that is very, wise and observant and kind of him, that he was able to do that. And be that, sort of that person that's like, yeah, I'm struggling, but I know you are too. So here, let's support each other. It's really beautiful.
Yep.
Anything else that stands out to you, when, as to how you use this to help you to grow stronger?
I think whenever you go through something hard, it's sink or swim. And it's, I'm trying to think of another example. I remember when she was being wheeled off to surgery, I was the one carrying her. And I remember, my legs felt so weak. And I remember just thinking, like, I'm going to pass out, and I'm holding her. And I just feel so emotionally and physically heavy right now. And I remember all of a sudden I felt his hands, like, on the small of my back. And he would, like, literally lift me up. And I just remember thinking, like, okay, like, I got this. I have my baby. She's okay. She's going to be okay. And, I have my man. And he's literally lifting me up right now so I can walk with our child. And, I think just that selflessness is so key. And just the unconditional love, I didn't shower sometimes for weeks, but he still viewed me as the most beautiful woman,
Yeah. So just always having that support.
Yes.
And having, knowing that even though I'm weak and I don't know if I could even handle this, having the support behind you that says, like, I've got you.
Right.
If you fall, I've got you.
Right.
You know? Yeah. And I think, you know, as other people relate to that, it's like, sometimes the struggle in this situation, it's a traumatic event, but sometimes the struggle is actually in the relationship with the other person, and it is the other person that they feel does not have their back, you know? And so then it's like if, you know, there's someone around them, someone else that can help support them and say, like, hey, like, if you fall, I'll pick you up. You know, you're going to be okay. And just to kind of have that sort of support from someone else is also key.
Right.
And an important thing. One of the things that I think is really big as well when couples are going through challenge or struggle, you know, because sometimes that challenge and that struggle is, again, it's within the relationship. It's like, oh my gosh, we might be getting a divorce, or oh my gosh, you know, we've lost our connection, or oh my God, you know, things have changed in the relationship, and so therefore our relationship is threatened. And one of the biggest things that I like to offer to my clients and everyone really is that challenge itself is the opportunity for growth. And one of the reasons why we are here as humans in this world is for growth. You know, and so relationship will often give us the challenges or the conflicts even, or the mountains that we're going to have to climb right now at this point in our journey, right now, because it's here. So now I got to climb it, you know, and it's really an opportunity for my own personal growth. And that's the message that I want to send out, you know, that I want to help reprogram the way that we see conflict and the way that we see challenge, because without it, then we're just sort of like smooth sailing and everything's going to be fine. And we're going to stay kind of where we are. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, everything's going to be awesome and there's the stability there, but you're not going to necessarily grow or get stronger, get wiser, get smarter, get more deeply loving.
Right.
And that's the thing that I believe that challenge and conflict in a relationship brings, is that if and when you're facing a challenge or a conflict in a relationship, it really is an opportunity to find bigger, stronger ways to love more deeply than you've ever loved before, you know? And I'm sure that you can attest to that, is that this challenge has brought an opportunity with it, you know, a few different, you know, even though it was painful to go through, and I wouldn't wish it on anybody,
Right.
but it grows you, you know, it can bring you guys together in a stronger way. It can grow you as a person. I mean, just think about how much stronger that you are as an individual now.
Definitely. Yeah.
Than when before that happened, you know? So, you know, I can get through this, you know? So, yeah, so, I mean, it's a big thing to be able to sort of reprogram the way that we see that, and to see the challenge or the conflict as a blessing, like to know that as hard as this is, there's blessings on the tail end of this growth.
Right.
You know, it's just like when we climb that mountain, even though it's a struggle, we're going to be developing our health, our muscles, our mind, our clarity, our connection. You know, there's so many things that we're developing in the process of that.
Right.
So we're going to have to go ahead and take a quick break. And when we get back, we're going to discuss a little bit more of what specifically that we're going to just highlight those specific things that we need to be able to create a challenge as an opportunity. See you then.
I've been into cars ever since I was 6 years old. I helped my dad build race cars in our driveway.
Dave Reeves, owner of Reeves Complete Auto Center.
I love cars. I've been in automotive service my whole life. I ran my dad's wrecking yard and rear-end shop, managed several auto repairs until I opened my own auto repair facility.
Reeves, on Ruther in Canyon Country.
I learned customer service and honest communication make the difference.
Reeves, your complete auto service center.
Call Reeves at 252-1400.
Hi, this is Dr. Pilecki. Too often, people cringe when they hear the word chiropractor. Maybe they got seduced by someone with more charisma than skill, or they just don't want their spine cracked. After 7 years of postgraduate certifications, I never crack anybody's back. But my exclusive 5-therapy approach often gets more relief than drugs or surgery ever could. So Google Dr. Palucki, find out why I earned all those 5-star reviews. Hope you get to write one soon.
Aloha, friends. Go check out Honu Coffee, home of the best cold brew coffee. What makes their coffee special is how their organic coffee beans are infused with nitrogen to create a smooth and delicious cup of coffee. You'll also find traditional bold coffees and island-inspired signature drinks. They're the perfect place to catch up with friends or just relax with your favorite cup of joe. Honu Coffee on Lyons and Walnut in Newhall. Stop by and say aloha.
And now for your convenience, a second Honu location at 23502 Lyons Avenue between Peachland and Apple.
Mission Valley Bank puts the community in community banking. They strive to be your most trusted bank. Mission Valley Bank is happy to sponsor KHTS Holiday Music. Happy holidays!
Questions about your water bill? SCV Water is available to answer your questions and help you understand your water bill. They can provide the tips and tools you need to use water more efficiently. Visit yourscvwater.com to manage your account and to pay your bill. Their customer service representatives look forward to helping you. That's yourscvwater.com. Hey there, it's Tori with your hometown station weather. Mostly sunny today. We're looking at highs in the upper 60s. It will be windy. Some clouds tonight with a low of 41 degrees. Tomorrow, sunny but chilly with highs only in the upper 50s. For anything and everything Santa Clarita Valley related, go to hometownstation.com or find us on social media at KHTS Radio.
Your hometown station.
Welcome back to Thriving Relationships with Jessica Hartley. I'm your host, Jessica Hartley, and Brittany Ellis and I have been just chatting on about how the challenge in a relationship can either grow your relationship or destroy the relationship. And Brittany was telling us about how she and her husband went through the challenge and the trauma of her daughter having brain cancer and going through a whole year. Was it a year or more?
It was 9 months of treatment.
Okay.
And then a year after that of intensive therapies.
Yeah, and still, I mean, you still have to go get checks, and you know, I
it's
think
not
you just
over.
did one recently. Yeah, you know, and just like, oh, is it still gone? You know, and so is she still clear? Yes, she is. You know.
Yep.
Yes. And so we were highlighting, you know, right before the break, what exactly that it made the difference for you to allow this struggle or this trauma to grow you instead of destroy you. And I was also talking about some of the perspective and how sometimes that's also, it's a little bit different when the challenge is with the other person. But so you were saying, why don't you say the things that you, if you can remember, I'll help you remember if you don't. Those, you mentioned 3 things specifically that helped you to use it for your growth. What were they?
Yeah. So easy to talk to, good communication.
Good communication, yes.
The other one was, you know, selfless acts, or, you know, making life fun for the other person. You know, taking time to do things that they need, you know, instead of focusing on what you need at the moment. And then the third one.
Well, you mentioned also that his ability to bring the lightness to it as well. So maybe those are combined there, but bringing the lightness to it, the support that he gave you, the support that you had when you felt like you were going to, you know, crash. Even with, you know, when you're talking about holding your daughter and not knowing if you could even stand, and him supporting you. And then you also gave this beautiful example about this rope. Can you say it one more time for anyone that didn't catch that?
So I remember calling my husband, Cardin, multiple times saying, I'm at the end of my rope here. I can't do this anymore. And he told me, he just said, Brittany, if you've reached the end of your rope, tie a knot onto the frayed ends and hold on. And so that's what I did. I have multiple knots on those frayed ends throughout 9 months. So that's how, we kept each other going.
Yes. And then you also mentioned how important it was to make time for each other.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's the big one. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So those are some very key points. The communication, I think, is essential, because if you want to use this challenge in your relationship that you're facing right now, whether it be something that's life has brought in or something that the relationship has created in itself, communication is huge. And the kind of communication is the kind where you're able to just voice what is important for you to say, to be able to voice your opinion, to be able to say it, and to be heard, and sometimes that can be hard. I think that especially when it has to do with the other person, it's like you have something that's important for you to say, but maybe you're scared to say it.
Right.
Or maybe, you don't want to offend the other person, or maybe you don't want to be judged by the other person.
Yeah.
And so to be able to have the kind of communication where you can communicate in that way, and that's by a relationship that really is grounded in a friendship that is stronger than the way we are acting in life. The kind of friendship that is, I'm a human being and you're a human being, and we're doing the best that we know. Right. And I think even bigger than that is a perspective that we're all doing the best that we know. It's like the first person that judges another person is the person that does not accept that they also make mistakes and that they are also human, and that we're just trying to navigate through life. We're all navigating through life at the same time, and there's always going to be the unknowns, and there's always going to be my dominant thought right now. And that dominant thought is always going to change, And so if we can understand and accept that, then we can have and establish good communication in the relationship. So if there's a struggle, say what needs to be said.
Yeah. Something else that we say to each other too, if we know what we're going to say the other person's not going to like, we say, okay, leave your ego at the door. And here we go, and then we hash it out, and, we're respectful, but we have to speak our truth. Otherwise, you don't have a good, solid communication foundation if you can't speak your truth.
Yeah, that's good. That's really great. So leave the ego at the door and just see me for you're someone that loves you and you love me, and we have a relationship, and we're both doing the best that we know. Right. And see me for that. I think even in my own experience, my own relationship, there are times that my husband has said certain things that just
infuriate.
Yes. And I'm like, what in the world? Like, where is this coming from? But no matter what, I'm glad that he's been willing to share it with me, because it's whatever was on his mind right now, and that was important for him to say. And so no matter what, he's my best friend, and I want to be able to be someone that he can say what he is thinking or feeling in that time, so having that, using communication as a tool to just be heard and seen for what's going on. Second is to create that time together, to create that space to reconnect. Third is to find support. Oftentimes, if it's our partner that's involved, and the partner that we're dealing with the struggle with, we can't get that support there. So then find support in yourself, and that's really the message that I want to give about support, because sometimes we're stronger than we know, and
I found that out.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like, if you just, our mind is really the one that's in charge of where our strength comes from, and whether or not it's enough or not is dependent on like our thinking. So become the person that can support you. Oftentimes, we're looking for validation or support or the words that we need to hear from our partner or from someone else. But the best way to find that support is from ourselves, to give ourselves those words, to say what I've been needing to hear from my partner or from someone else. Just say that phrase and you will feel so supported, even by yourself on your own, in those moments. and then to bring lightness to it, to know that this is a mountain that's going to grow you. There's so many blessings at the end of this. And so do the work of climbing the mountain. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and know that it's going to support you, that it's going to uplift you, not just personally, but also in the relationship and also in as your roles in every other aspect of your life. You know, it's going to uplift you. I know that every time that I personally have overcome a conflict or a challenge in our relationship, that it has grown me into who I am now. And now I'm supporting so many other relationships because of the stuff that I've done, that I've been able to handle and master and get a hold on and have perspective now from the top of that mountain from, you know. And so don't be scared of the conflict. Don't tighten up. Don't put up your walls. Don't, like, just be open to that mountain, that challenge, that conflict, and just say, okay, the mountain's in front of me now. There's no escaping this mountain. I have to climb it. And I think that's the part where most people fail, is they just they see the mountain in front of them and then they try to run away from it. And they're like, oh, that's a challenge that I don't want to have. I just want to sail on that, you know, smooth sailing waters. And it's like, you're going to have a lot more perspective and joy from life if you can first climb this mountain and then start sailing those waters again. You know, that life itself is always about both using the variety and the change and the challenge as an opportunity for growth, and also about creating stability and consistency and support and something that you can depend on at the same time. And so both of